will tell you, it's going to be a roller coaster ride. So can everyone raise their hands like a roller coaster? Okay, yeah, you all know how a roller coaster does. We get low, and then we get high, and we get low and high. Um, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you for being here and letting you tell my story, or letting me tell my story, and hopefully something will resonate with you all, and you'll walk away, and that's my hope, that you'll walk away with some new idea, some new empathy for people as well. Um, in 2018, I was named the Air Force Spouse of the Year, and I did a lot of traveling, and I represented all of the Air Force spouses. And it was magnificent to be able to do that. And so to tell you my story, I grew up in the Air Force. We moved every 2 years. It was hard PCSing. I'm sure with PCS you understand the boxes, things get to wherever the new location is, you go through the inventory, this is broken, who the hell's stuff is this? It's not ours, where's our stuff, right? But being in a place for 2 years, we needed to get embedded in our community pretty quickly. And there were two mantras that my parents taught us growing up, my younger brother and me. One, if you don't ask, the answer's no. In fact, the answer's always no, right? If you don't ask. But if you ask, you have a chance. If you have a chance, take it. And if it changes your life, let it. And that really came back. I still use that. And my kids grew up with that mantra as well. The other one was we got embedded in our community. Whether it was Okinawa, Japan, or Omaha, Nebraska, San Vito, Italy, or San Antonio, Texas, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, or Colorado Springs, Colorado. We got embedded in our community. My brother and I would sit in the back of the car, in the back seat, with a Rand McNally map. Do you all remember those? Right? Way before GPS. We would tell our parents where to turn, and we would get lost in our city. And I thought it was wonderful because we met great people, and we found some really fascinating places. But later I came to learn that we needed those community members that we got embedded with, that we developed relationships with, that were so important. Vernon Law, the athlete, has a saying, life is a tough teacher. You get the test first and then learn the lesson. It was an aha moment for me when I heard that. And I'm sure you all have gone through tests. They're all pop quizzes, right? But sometimes they're a midterm and sometimes they're a final. And our community came alongside when we needed it the most. The first test that I went through like that was I had a massive stroke when I was 15 years old. We were stationed in Germany. I had played Steffi Graf in tennis and beat her, and I had won the golf championship for all the high schools in Germany. So I had a plan for life, right? How many of you have had plans and then there are detours that happen? And I had a massive detour. The prognosis was if I lived, I would never walk again. Well, I don't take no for an answer. Took me 1.5 years to learn to walk again after I had surgery. And I write with my left hand now because my right hand doesn't work very well. But it was my community that came alongside. My friends would come after school because I needed to learn to walk again. And I had to learn to crawl first. So we would have crawling races. And just because I had a stroke, that didn't mean my competitiveness went away. I wanted to win those crawling races. My speech therapist was too darn good, I'll admit that. But I had physical therapy and occupational therapy. And I graduated from high school and walked across the stage for the first time without any help. And I went off to college. My scholarships were taken away, but I got a scholarship because we were Texas residents, and I was handicapped. So I went off to the University of Texas in Austin, largest university in 1985. So you don't have to do the math. I'm 39, plus shipping and handling. Okay, expedited shipping and handling. Come on, Dick, you're making me be truthful here. But in 1985, it was the largest university in population-wise in the U.S. And I had to find my community. And I had grown up on military bases my entire life. So the ROTC building was my community. And I hung out there. And I'm an uber extrovert. I know that I can suck the air right out of an introvert's lungs if I'm not careful. And I've got to temper that. But I was at a party one night, and there was one person in the room that I didn't know. So I walked right up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Kristen Anderson." He said, "Hi, I'm Don Christy. We can never get married." Well, guess what? I don't take no for an answer. 5 months later, I had the ring on my finger. We got married 2 years later after he was commissioned in the Air Force. I had a new plan for my life, right? That detour that happened before, because life is a tough teacher. We get the test first and then we learn the lesson. Now, don't ask me about this hairdo. That's for a whole nother presentation. Like, what was she thinking? Sally Fields and the Flying Nun. But we started our family. We went up to Grand Forks, North Dakota. Yeah, see, you get it, right? And how important, Karen, is it to get embedded in your community because of the extreme winters, right? You need your community alongside of you. And so we did. We got embedded in that community. We were there for 4 years. But the extreme winters, and we were 18 miles away from town. And of course, when he was pulling alert as a missileer or TDY, that's when the gremlins come out. Our basement floods when I'm 8 months pregnant with our oldest son, Ryan, and Don's pulling alert, and our community came alongside. Then after 4 years there, we moved to Colorado Springs. And we got embedded in our community. It was really the first time we had lived off an installation. We bought our first house. And we were ambassadors for our civilian community. It was wonderful to get embedded in that city. In 1997, Don came home from active duty, and he said, "You know, my active duty career is not going the way I want it to. And I really want to be a squadron commander, but I don't see that path the way it's going now." So he separated, and he joined the Air Force Reserve. And it was the best of both worlds. And that was a new community for us. And we stood in the gaps where we needed to. At the time that he joined, we got a pink ID card, my favorite color, and we got a green card. We could go to the commissary 12 times a year as a reservist. That was it. We said, no. Reservists have to be as trained, as mission ready, and as certified as our active duty counterparts. So as a young military spouse, I was on a committee, and we went up to Capitol Hill, and we advocated for unlimited commissary services for our reservists. So the next year, we got a 24 punch card for the commissary. And we said, "Thank you, however, comma." We went back up and we got unlimited services for the reserve. Now, veterans are able to use the facilities, the BX, PX, the NEX, however, you know, we all have different, we talk about the same thing, but each branch has a different language. So our veterans can now use those facilities as well. But it's standing in the gap as a community coming together and finding out where those services are needed. 2003, Don became a squadron commander. It came to fruition. Largest squadron in all of Air Force Reserve, they were running the GPS satellite. Remember that Rand McNally map? Throw that one away, right? And he came home in 2003 and he said, "Kristen, I have been tasked with getting volunteers to go to Baghdad for a 4.5-month deployment." And he did not feel right asking for volunteers unless his name was at the top of the list. That's a true leader. In my eyes, that's a manager or supervisor says go, but a leader says let's go, and he said let's go. And he was the only one chosen. And in 2004, he went to Baghdad. He was second in command of the airport. And we didn't hear much from him. It was before Skype and everything. We would email him. And we would hear about Toby Keith taking a nap on his couch in his office when he came through for a USO tour, or Ted Nugent signing his gun holster on that tour, or meeting Secretary Rumsfeld as he came through the airport. But Don came home 4.5 months later, and he was different. We hear about it. You all have seen it, right? It's different. That gleam that was in his eye when I met him that night in college was gone. His fingernails were bitten down to the nubs. He was more reserved than typical. He participated in aromatherapy. That's what he called his cigar smoking. But he was doing that more frequently. And there was just something off, and I knew it, and I tried to figure it out, and he couldn't communicate with me. It wasn't clearance related, but he came home with the Bronze Star, and I know, as a military spouse, that you earn that Bronze Star. And you don't earn it by Toby Keith, hosting him in your office. But I didn't know why. And I thought, okay, it's just going to take some time. And he reintegrated with the kids, Ryan and Ben. He and I communicated, but not the way I wanted to communicate. I wanted to know more. I wanted to fix things. I think that's human nature, to fix things. But 4 years later, April 21st of 2008, 4 years after his deployment, I got a ring at the doorbell, and it was the coroner and 2 officers. And Don had taken his life 3 days before he pinned on Colonel. People have said, oh, he's not the typical. I think you all know there's no typical, right? There's no typical. It doesn't discriminate. And I remember 13 years ago just thinking, my poor boys, my poor boys. But I remember every single person who was in my living room and my kitchen that night. Our community that we were embedded in came alongside of us when we needed it the most. Because we got embedded in our community. You don't have to be an extrovert to do that. You don't have to get to know a whole bunch of people, right? It could be over just a table, getting to know someone, having some empathy for them. But Don's choice has rippling effects. Our youngest son, Ben, was 12 years old when Don took his life. 8 years later, on Ben's 20th birthday, I received this voicemail.
I miss Dad. I miss Dad so much. I can't live without him. I can't. I need him right now. I need him so much. I just need someone right now, Mom. Mommy. I need Dad right now. I can't live without him. This is the worst year of my life. Mommy, I'm not okay. I'm not okay right now, Mom. I really need help. I really need help. I really need you answer.
That lasting effect. I hear that abandonment in his voice each and every time. Ben attempted suicide that night. His role model had. In fact, both of my boys have attempted. His community came alongside of him when he needed them the most. His roommates in college, he was at the University of Arizona in Tucson. His fraternity brothers, his roommates got him the help that he needed. But it's still a rough road for him. Our oldest son, Ryan, this is what we have from Ryan. We are not having technical difficulties. Ryan has been missing for 2,196 days today. Monday was the 6th anniversary of the last time I saw my son. I'm not a therapist. I don't have letters behind my name. I feel like I'm a subject matter expert, a SME in overcoming, and I wish God wouldn't trust me so much. Because this is what's left of my family. Because of a choice that Don made. But Ryan's therapist had indicated that his dad's suicide had triggered bipolar in him early. He was 16 when he was diagnosed. Bipolar typically presents in the early to mid-20s. And I think as a mom that if Ryan had had those years to mature, maybe he wouldn't gotten into drugs. Maybe things would have turned out a little bit better for him if he had been a little more mature when it had presented itself. But as a mom, I pray that my son is on this side of heaven. And we're still trying to find him. So again, not as a therapist, but as a mom, I feel like suicide is contagious. There's research that says people that have a suicide in their family are more likely to think about it and act on it. Mark Twain has a saying, there are two important days in a person's life. The day that they're born and the day they find out why. And through all of this hurt and destruction, because my community came alongside and I used our resources, I found out why. And it hurt getting here. And it hurts every time I tell the story. But I hope it resonates with you all. You may not need to hear that voicemail right now. You may. But you may not. You may later on down the line. Or you have someone within your sphere of influence that needs to hear that voicemail, that needs to hear from you that you care, and to have some empathy. We are on an emotional battlefield. We do not know the individual battles that our battle buddy or our wingmen are waging. And sometimes we have to borrow courage and we have to borrow hope. There are times when I have enough courage and enough hope to share with people. And there are times where I have to borrow it, still to this day. And it's okay. It's okay. So I grew up speaking in acronyms, right? As a vet, you did too. Army has different acronyms than Air Force, though. So I did do a Joint Forces dictionary on acronyms for our military when we were at Army War College. The only acronym that crosses all the services, F&G. That's it. But we're going to practice. We'll talk about some acronyms here in a little bit, but this is an exercise. Your index cards and all, I have a YouTube video, and I'm trying to work on one that's military-centric. I want you to watch this. It's music, but read the words, please. And then we'll have a little workshop. think that's so powerful. Really makes you think. There were some good things in there too, though, right? Tumor was benign. Finding out he's going to be a dad. Celebrating 25th wedding anniversary. So on your index cards, we're going to do some participation, some participation here. I'd like you to finish one of these sentences. And this is anonymous, that's why you all have the same color index card and all. We're going to pick those up, and then we're going to shuffle them, and I'm going to hand them out, and I'm going to ask you to read what's on your card. And if by chance you get your card, you don't have to tell us that, right? Pretend like it's someone else's card. But finish one of these sentences. I struggle with, I worry about, I feel like. I struggle with, I worry about, I feel like. Just one of those. That video really is a good reminder of that emotional battlefield we're on. That people just don't know. But I think our hearts and our heads and our intuition, we don't rely on those enough. And we know when something's wrong or when something's really going right. Okay, are you all, Karen, could you help me pick these up? Oh, Karen, yes, I've got two Karens.
Oh,
Thank you.
Great. I know.
Yeah, that's right. I love it. Look at this participation. She didn't balk or anything. I love it. That's terrific. Okay, good. Yeah. Karen, both of you, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, Karen, would you hand those back out to everyone? Oh, okay. Good. Thank you for playing along. I appreciate it. And I like the bright colors. Okay. Oh. Oh, you aren't. So we shouldn't go to Las Vegas with you. No? Okay. The Cupid Shuffle, do you know how to dance too, Mitch?
Oh, can I dance?
Yeah. I don't know if we want to see that, but okay. So I'm going to ask if you all would please just read out what's on your card. Karen, would you start?
I worry about finances.
I worry about finances.
I worry about those who don't put their trust in God.
Oh, I worry about those who don't put their trust in God. Dick.
I struggle with a sense of failure.
Oh, I struggle with a sense of failure. Randy? Feelings of inadequacy. And your name? Oh, I'm going to stand back here. Pete, oh no, that's fine. I'm glad you're here. Whatever time you guys come. That's all right. So Pete, so do you mind reading your card, please?
It's, I worry about the future of the younger generation.
Okay, the future of the younger generation. And your name?
Jerry.
Jerry, thanks for being here, Jerry. Can you read your card?
Yeah, I struggle with feeling helpless in many situations.
I struggle with feeling helpless in many situations. David?
I struggle with depression.
Struggle with depression. Who else has a card? Chris?
I feel like I judge too quick.
Ooh. See, okay, any other cards that we missed? So that reaction right there from us, right? I could have written most of those myself. Right? We all could. I've got goosebumps right now. And I hear different ones each and every time. Sometimes, I feel like I'm on top of the world. And it's good to feel on top of the world. But a lot of the time, I'm thinking these things. There's a saying, if you had a friend who talked to you the way you sometimes talk to yourself, how long would that person stay your friend? So I have that inner voice that I live with 24/7, right? And when we have community members, we get embedded in that community. And I've said community a heck of a lot of times, haven't I? Karen, you have a different definition of community. Park, you have a different definition of community. We all have a different definition, but it's really the same. It's the people who care about you and the people you care about. It's your sphere of influence. So I would really like for you to keep those cards with you and remember that other people are struggling, are worrying about, they have feelings, and it gives you a different perspective. So those acronyms that I talked about, F and G, tell you when my son graduated from college, I texted my 94-year-old aunt. She texts, she is spry, she's on it. I said, Ben is graduating from college. I get WTF. And I'm like, Aunt Joyce, what does WTF mean to you? Wow, that's fantastic. So next time you see WTF, right, different reframe. It gives you a different sense. In the military, FYSA. Do you all know what that means? For your situational awareness, or for your sorry ass.
Yes.
But you don't have to tell the person that you're writing it to which one you mean, right? Reframing. We're going to reframe some acronyms right here.
For you stupid asshole.
That's another, it's coming up with acronyms and definitions. PTS. What does that mean when you see PTS? Post-traumatic stress. I want to encourage you that it can mean post-traumatic strength. Remember, life is a brutal teacher. We get the test first and then we learn the lesson. We learn those lessons and they're hard. You know, this too shall pass. It may pass like a kidney stone, but it will pass. We learn those lessons and then we can help tutor people. There's a country song, when you're driving through hell, keep on going. I challenge you to look through your rear view mirror because someone's coming right behind you through a different hell. May not be the same adversity, right? Don't compare your adversities with my adversities. We have an empathy for a 10 out of 10 on the pain scale. We've all been through 10 out of 10 on the pain scale. We have that common knowledge. But the lessons that you learn through your hell could help someone else through their own hell. And so that post-traumatic strength. I am who I am today despite everything that I went through because of my community and because of the possibilities that other people saw in me that I couldn't see at the time because of those blinders. The next one is no. As a supervisor, if you have to say no, remember, you don't know what that person's going through. It could be a gut punch or a heart punch. It stands for next opportunity. And when you have to say no to someone, spend a little bit of time helping them find that next opportunity. You know, I think of that airman who had to change their AFSC or the soldier who had to change the MOS. And their identity is based on what they do, not on their character, but on what they do. And it could be tough, but it's their next opportunity. Now, those of us who have kids, right? Our kids are really good about finding that next opportunity, right? Dad says no, they go to mom. It's that next opportunity. Next one is fly. First, love yourself. It's that self-care, right? It's that put your oxygen mask on before you help others so you can give of your overflow, not of your overwhelmed. When you have an overflow that you can give, that just blesses so many people. What does self-care mean? You all have a different definition. For me, it's not going to the gym. I'll admit the only gym I visited during COVID was Jim Beam in moderation, you know. That's not my jam. Golf is my jam. Reading, I did a lot of webinars online. To me, that's self-care. So think about what self-care looks like for you. We all have 1,440 minutes in every day. What percentage do you keep for yourself to practice in self-care? It's important. First, love yourself. You know, the war cry for the Air Force is fly, fight, win. You got to first love yourself if you're going to fight and win. Fail. One of those cards. Randy, was it your card? Or Dick, your card that talked about failure? Right? Fail. I feel like I failed as a mom and as a spouse. I mean, royally failed. How do you come up from that? It's when you reframe and you understand it means first attempt in learning or further attempt in learning, never final attempt in learning. Those lessons we learn from those darn pop quizzes or those midterms or those finals. It's okay to fail. It truly is. When you can learn those lessons and you get it better the next time, and you may fail again, but don't fail by yourself. Have that community alongside of you. It can be lonely. We aren't made to do life alone. Another one, another F4-letter word, fear. False evidence appearing real. So if, I'm not going to, but if I had you on the back side of your card write what your biggest fear is, and we shuffled them, and we handed them out, maybe 2 of them would be the same, right? We all have different fears, and we can't see past those blinders. And when other people can help us see the potential to get over those fears. And I'm asking you to fear less, 2 words, not be fearless, 1 word. When you are fearless, you can't grow. In order to grow, you got to get outside your comfort zone, right? When you're fearless, 1 word, everything's your comfort zone. When you go to the gym and work out, obviously you do, Pete, right? Every once in a while, right? It's probably self-care for you, but you push yourself. You have to break those muscles and help them grow back again and get stronger. It's like the heart. I used to say, what's the largest muscle in our body? And I would say the heart. Well, then I found out, no, it's the glutes. What's our strongest muscle in our body? Our heart. Hearing that voicemail each and every time, it breaks my heart. But my heart, that muscle grows back and it grows stronger and it breaks again, just like going to the gym. But fear less. Get outside that comfort zone. Make that be your escape room. Another 4-letter F word is free. Foster relationships energetically everywhere. Now, energetically to me is like Tigger. I come bounding into a room, right? Doing cartwheels, not a pretty sight. But I want to foster relationships. That's why I ask your names, right? I want to foster relationships. And I want to stay connected even after tonight is done. Because our sphere of influences come together. And Dick, I may not be able to help you and you may not be able to help me, but man, it is fun talking to you tonight. Made me laugh, right? But you may have a friend that eventually needs help from one of my friends. And guess what? Because we met tonight, our spheres of influence have collided. Park needs help. Well, our spheres of influence have collided too, Park. See, you have a community here.
He knows my wife.
Before I knew him.
Oh, wow. See, that's community. And that's fostering relationships energetically everywhere. And then hope. Hope stands for hold on, pain eases. Now, some people will say that ease stands for end. But I think you understand when I say my pain won't ease, or my pain won't end. It'll ease, right? You all have pain in your life that have eased over time. But more importantly, you have capital E's in your community who have helped that pain ease. And I want to ask you, whose capital E are you? Someone relies on you to help their pain ease. Hope also has another definition. Help one person every day. And when you need your pain to ease, guess what? It really helps when you can get outside of your own struggle, your own worry, your own feelings, and you help one person every day. But remember, fly, first love yourself. It's okay if that one person you help a day is yourself. It's not selfish whatsoever. Remember to give of your overflow, not of your overwhelmed. You have to take care of yourself. So hope has the two definitions. So these are my capital E's. My husband, Sean, he was my driver. He's my capital E. I don't know many spouses who can live in the shadow of a previous life as I travel. And he is so supportive. And I thank you. I hope you know that. But he's my capital E. And I hope he would say that I'm his capital E as well. And this is my son, Ben, the voicemail, the younger son. He looks like Liam Hemsworth. He's so cute. But, I'm mom. He's doing well now. He just turned 26. He's at Edwards Air Force Base in California, working on our B-52s, helping to retrofit those, our aging bombers. When he calls me, guess what? I worry. But he's of that age that texting he's all about that. So I'm pretty good. But he has helped my pain ease, and I have helped him his pain ease. We're capital E's for each other. So what did our community do for us? Right? We always have postvention for adversities. So the first one, they showed up. They were in my living room. I made one phone call. My living room was full of people. And I remember 13 years ago, every single person who was in my living room and my kitchen. They showed up. But even those who were far away showed up in the form of a card, in a phone call, in flowers for Mother's Day 3 weeks after we buried Dawn. They showed up. You just show up. And then they did something. It says do something, not say something. Right? It's hard because we want to make things better and we want to say something. And I want to let you know that it's okay to say, I don't have the words for you right now. But I'm here, I showed up, and I will do whatever you need me to do. Now, you have been through adversities. People have said, you let me know what I can do. Don't ask them what you can do. My hairdresser showed up at our house and cut my boy's hair for the funeral. A friend of mine showed up. She didn't ask. She showed up, and the next morning, she had to break into our house, and she was making pancakes for me and the boys. She didn't ask. If she had asked, I would have told her I hated pancakes. But they were the best tasting pancakes I've ever had because they were made with love. Another friend of mine came, and she slept on Dawn's side of the bed for 3 nights so it wouldn't be empty. They showed up and they did something. And then they were intentional. The first 30 to 45 days, people are pretty attentive. And then after that, it wanes. Rightly so. We all have lives to live, right? But I have a few friends that still kept in touch. And it wasn't just on the anniversary of his death. It wasn't on his birthday. It wasn't on milestones. They just reached out. So I'm giving you all homework, honor system, right? Before you go to bed tonight, I want you to scroll through your contacts on your phone. And whether it's just stopping on a name or you see a name that you haven't contacted in a while, text them. Texting is easy, right? No awkward phone conversation or anything like that. Text them and say, hey, I was thinking of you tonight. How are you? Or, hey, what made you smile yesterday? Because you don't want them to say, well, your text made me smile, right? Sometimes we really have to think about what made us smile. We have to hunt for the good. You're helping them hunt for the good. Now, I will caution you, I do suggest that you put your name at the end of your text because they may not have you in their phone. But I try and do that twice every morning to two people randomly. I have texted my plumber. He's like, I think you have the wrong number. And I said, nope, I want you to know that I'm thinking of you today and I'm really glad you're my plumber so I don't have to do it. That's okay. So tonight, before you go to bed, text somebody. And I bet you most of you will get a text back probably tomorrow morning or a phone call. They'll say, how did you know I needed a smile? Or, I'm going through a rough time right now, and this is the situation. And guess what? You may have gone through that situation 3 years ago because you learned lessons and you can be their tutor and walk alongside of them and be their battle buddy on this emotional battlefield. And then use your resources, right? Every city, every town has resources. So these are national resources for you. If you have your phone and you want to take a snapshot, we've got the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. How many of you have heard of the Veteran Crisis Line? Okay? You dial 1, right? How about the Military Crisis Line? They're all the same number. They are all the same number, 3 different names. Well, I worked for 3 years, talk about standing in the gap, getting that unlimited commissary services. Worked for 3 years to have a 3-digit suicide hotline number. Some of you on your cell phones may have gotten a text message from your service provider that says, starting in October, you have to dial 10 digits, even if it's a local number, and it's getting ready for 988. When we have a medical emergency, what number do we call? 911. When we have a mental health emergency, July of 2022, we will be able to dial 988. And it's not just for you when you're in crisis, but when a loved one or someone in your community needs help, you're able to call and get the resources that you need to stand alongside of them, to take that emotional backpack off of their shoulders. National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI. And they're texting possibilities too. And you can go online, and then Give an Hour is free counseling. And it's not just a one and done, right? I was in counseling for 8 years. I still have my counselor on speed dial. She's got my back. She's got my 6. We need people like that. And then locally, you've got a lot of other resources, and I'm going to ask you what some of those resources are because I want us to share them with each other. These are the 3 organizations. Their tables are in the back, and they so graciously hosted me to come out here. Adaptive Performance Center. Amazing. I am really hoping to get something in Colorado Springs and bring them out there, and they're growing. And Dog Tag Buddies. What I love is the volunteerism. Isn't it amazing how animals have that intuition that I wish I had? That's why my friends call me the emotional support human. without the vest and the "Do not pet me" sign. But there are opportunities there. And then the Concerned Veterans for America and the Montana chapter. So, Chris, thank you for providing it. What are some other resources that you know of here in Billings that help specifically with vets? VFW. Do you have a number of VFWs here in Billings? Okay. DAV, another one. What is that? Veterans Navigation Network. And that's here in Billings? Yep. Okay. And what do they do, David?
They help veterans kind of find their path in life.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what mine was, and found my mentor through it, and making the right choices for it.
Your community came alongside of you through this organization. Your mentor is part of your community to help guide you, tutor you through those. And I think what you said is so important. It's finding a purpose. Remember Mark Twain saying, the 2 important days, the day that you're born and the day that you find out why? That purpose, that sense of purpose. When you're in the military, you have that purpose. And when our community can come alongside and help us find a new purpose or repurpose ourselves, use those acronyms and translate them to the civilian population, right? Once we take off that uniform, it's that sense of purpose. The best time to find out what your resources are when you're in a good place. We've got the tables in the back. I really encourage you to put their phone numbers in your phone. Go visit them if you can. But so many resources. The VFW is a great one. Every city has those. And it's that having that cultural understanding of the military and the veteran community. So I want to talk to you about a resource my son Ben found. His senior year in high school, his counselor had asked him, Ben, you're going off to college. He was a 4-sport athlete in high school: football, wrestling, basketball, and track. He was not playing sports in college. He didn't get a scholarship. And his counselor said, Ben, what are you going to do to help combat your anxiety and depression? Because you can play intramural sports, but his counselor really recommended he take up a mindless hobby. Well, the girl he liked his senior year was starting a crochet club before school. So this athletic kid, very popular, went and learned how to crochet. He went off to college and he became a closet crocheter. He was not telling his roommates or his fraternity brothers that he crocheted. So 4.5 years of college, his last semester, 20 hours of aerospace engineering, hoping to graduate. He called me in February of 2019. I told you when he calls, I get worried. Calls me February 2019. 20 semester hours of aerospace engineering, waiting for his clearance because he was very honest about his 72-hour holds and his cutting and his attempts, and looking for a job. And he calls me and he goes, Mom, I've gone viral. And I said, honey, go to urgent care. It's okay. They'll take care of you. He goes, Mom, no, I've gone viral on Instagram and Twitter. And I said, do I even want to know why? I was a little concerned. He said, I posted a picture to sell this halter top. So his girlfriend at the time, he crocheted a halter top for her. She broke up with him before he could gift it to her. He puts it on to sell it on Instagram and Twitter. He got 500 orders for these $45 halter tops. He said, Mom, what am I going to do? This hobby I took up to help with anxiety and depression is causing me more anxiety and depression. So we talked about it. Well, this kid, using his resources, taught his frat brothers how to brochet. Nice. Words matter, don't they? This is silver, not gray. He taught his frat brothers how to crochet. They fulfilled all 500 orders. The beauty is his fraternity brothers learned a mindless hobby to help them combat their anxiety and depression, and they had a little green in their pockets. This is the young lady who bought it. I think she wore it best. But he went viral on, and it was because he used his resources. He still crochets to this day. Brochets to this day. But I'm so proud of him. So we have over 1,500 days of observance. Today is National Cherry Jubilee Day, National Punctuation Day, and National Brave Day. Overcoming. It's Overcoming Day. So I will tell you, my punctuation day, I really enjoy this day. My logo has exclamation points in it because I'm known, besides a human or an emotional support human, I'm also known as the human exclamation point. And I've told my family that on my tombstone, I want my birth date and my death date with an exclamation point in between, because I lived my life. Can you imagine walking through the cemetery and you see that headstone and you're going, I bet she was fun, right? She gave of her overflow, not of her overwhelmed. We don't have a Survivor's Day or a Resilience Day, so I created National Resilience Day, and it's on March 4th. Because we march forth and conquer our insecurities, our disappointments, our self-limiting beliefs. If there's one day out of the year that we can get up in the morning, we can hold our head up high and pull our shoulders back and go forth and conquer our fears, our failures, our no's, our post-traumatic stress. And more importantly, we can help other people do that and help them tutor through that. It's March 4th. So I hope next year on March 4th, it just is a different day for you. It empowers you to be a tutor for your community. And we march forth and conquer together. And I want to be a resource for you. This is my information. My phone number, my website, my email, all of that. I want to stay connected. I want to foster this relationship with you. I don't have all the answers. No one does. But I know people, right? And Dick knows people, and Randy knows people, and Chris knows people, and Pete, and Jerry, and Karen, and Park. You all know people. And we reach out and we help one another, because life is a tough, brutal, cruel teacher. We get the test first and then we learn the lesson. And those lessons we take on that emotional battlefield to be that battle buddy, to arm ourselves with the hope and the courage that's needed, to march forth and conquer together. I appreciate you being here more than you can ever know. Thank you.